evening episode. It is now 10 p.m. here in Denmark, which means that it's time to cozy up. And for the past hour, I have been knitting by candlelight, enjoying the beautiful music from Malene. Obviously, now I have my studio lights on for you to be able to see what's going on in here. But yeah, I hope everyone is knitting comfortably. I am for sure. And this time I even have something to show for it. My cat number 3 is growing. And now probably everyone can tell that cat number 3 is going to be a vest, just like the vests that I have been making for so many years. For myself, for my children, now for my grandchildren. I have made a couple of them lately, and a lot of people have been asking if I was gonna write up a pattern. So actually I had something much more complicated planned for my cat number 3, but then I decided to make things easier on myself, listen to you guys, and write up the pattern for this vest, and of course knit myself a new version. So yeah, I am thoroughly enjoying this. I am finding pleasure in every stitch. It is so simple. It is just, see, I have these ribbed edges along the what do you call that, armholes, and other than that, it is just stockinette stitch back and forth. As always, when I am knitting stockinette stitch back and forth, I have two different tips on my needle, so that the tip that I use on the wrong side, the tip that I use for purling, is just a little bit smaller than the one that I use on the right side for the knit stitches. And that is, of course, because my purling is much looser than my knitting. So if I don't do that, I will row out. That wouldn't be very obvious here because I have the ribbed edges, but still it's so much nicer to just do that. That's one of the nice things about knitting a lot. You get to know your own weaknesses or quirks, if you will, so that you can just do something about it right away. So yes, cat number 3 is going strong. And I know that people are knitting on amazing things out there. I have been following along in all of the live streams that have been happening, and wow, there are so many gorgeous projects out there. I'm reading the chats to see what people are knitting, and it is just, this is just an amazing event. I am so enjoying it. Thank you so much for joining in. It is absolutely wonderful to have someone to knit with. I was actually thinking for this episode that I would invite you on a tour of my studio, because as I mentioned earlier today, I just cleaned it. I just cleaned it, and I think I have gotten a lot of requests over the time to take you on a tour. It should be now. It should be right now before I mess up everything again. So yeah, I thought we could start right here where we are in my knit nook, my little knitting corner on my super comfortable couch that has plenty of room for me and for Misa. She's also here keeping me company. Behind us on these non-shelves are, as I mentioned earlier, my non-stash. That was part of the cleaning process, was finding out how much yarn I actually had acquired over the years. Most of this yarn is from Texas, McKinney, Missouri. I am looking at you because I always need a souvenir when visiting you. But there's also a lot. There is from under the Christmas tree. I always put special yarns on my wish list. So I have some tinder that I have gotten over some years for Christmas. There's some Brooklyn shoulder. There's also some magpie fiber, which is from McKinney Knittery. Up there in this basket is the yarns that I have picked out for my next Scrappy Striper, because it's been a while since I knit one. And right behind me here is my contemplative knitting. So every day I sit and knit, only knit. I don't do anything else but knitting. Often when I knit and talk, or I knit and read, or I knit and watch podcasts, but every day I take time to just knit. And I am knitting these very simple squares that one day I'm gonna put together into a nice blanket. And these are some very special needles. These are a gift from my son. This is bone, deer bone that has been processed into these beautifully smooth and warm and lovely needles. So I'm using those, thinking about him every day. I also have over here some special yarn. These are some super rustic yarns. It's leftover lat wool from my lat wool cardigan, and it is some super sheepy wool. I could smell this forever. This is some wool that I won in a giveaway on the podcast Knitting in Mauritius. It's from Poland. It's gorgeous. I don't have a project ready for it yet, but that'll come. There's also a teeny tiny cardigan that I knit for my grandson Victor when he was a teeny tiny person who could actually fit into something like this. I also think that I mentioned the yarns over here. Those are actually not stash. Those are yarns for upcoming collaborations. But yeah, the rest of it is things that I have acquired, mostly souvenir yarns, because there's no better souvenir than yarn, right? I am gonna now try to turn the camera and lift you up. I hope I can do that in a way so that you don't get seasick or get blinded by the studio lights. I'm gonna try to do like this. See, there they are. And we can start over here. Let me just bring you here, behind the lights. A little corner with some socks, some more yarns. Up here, I have some very special yarns. These are the leftovers of the first skeins that I ever received from A Knitter's World. And lots of skeins. The 4 skeins here were some yarns that I purchased in Texas to have for the gnome along for Christmas last year. I never finished the gnome along, but I have the yarns. Some knitting books, lots of scraps. I have so many scraps, you're not going to believe it. I have so many scraps. I define scraps as anything less than a full ball of yarn. So see here, I have some sock yarns from a lonely sock lady, some project bags. See, I can still cast on lots of stuff because I have project bags. And over here are 3 project bags with lingering whips. It's a couple of shawls, and it is a Harry Potter snake necklace for my granddaughter. And there's Misa and my knitting. Oh, there's dinner. Chocolate from a very special knitting friend. Thank you, Malina. And over here in the corner, this is how it looks when I prepare to do a podcast. Later tonight, I am going to do like a regular podcast showing you what I'm working on, what I finished, some dream. Yeah, that dinner is absolutely amazing. Licorice and chocolate, what more can you want? Over here, we have a little bit of stash. These are some wool of the Andes and some silk mohair I have required over the years. Scraps, loads of scraps. In there, some fixed circular needles that I honestly never use, and scraps. And here we have my desk. So many of my patterns were born on this desk. This is my favorite place to be. I can really focus and relax when I sit here. I have all my stuff. I have my knitting needles. Thank you, daughter. I have my knitting needles and my notions. All my DPNs that I never use. Oh, and this is funny. I need to show you this because this is what I use instead of barber cord. Because this is tubing that was made for jewelry making. So you see it is, if it will focus for me, you can see that it is just like barber cord. But I paid $7 or less for this whole thing. Just a little tip, got it off Amazon. Some new yarn. Again, something that I just received to make a new Be Beautiful. My winder, or my Swift, my winder is over here. I used to have such a beautiful ball winder, the one from Shapier in wood. Beautiful thing. Just too bad that it wouldn't wind yarn into balls. It would only make yarn barf, which was not what I was going for. Here is my project bag that I got in Texas. And one of the vests that I have made. Well, Malina, it's not all I've been eating. My tiny shawl wall. I have some of my shawls here, and I have a Christmas sweater that I knit for little John when he was living here. He outgrew that a long time ago. And down here, let's start there. That's sock yarn. On the other side, thank you. It is peaceful. It is one of my favorite spaces in the world. But it does hold my shame. That whole basket here is my frog pond. This is all old projects, abandoned whips that I need to frog. And I don't know why I just don't go ahead and do it. I mean, get it over with. But yeah, there you go. That's part of it. This back part of the room is actually the yarn that I have for sale. I started out some years ago wanting a yarn shop. I quickly realized that it's not easy to have a yarn shop. So now I'm just selling these last pieces, and that's okay. That's fine. Up there, some of the prices, the project bags and the beautiful yarns. And down there, all of my knitting books. I love my knitting books. Oh, hello from Texas. Yay. Yeah, I can see Be Beautiful is one of the knits that is quite okay in Texas. I use mine, the summer version, all the time when I'm in Texas. And hello from Van Lucy. Yay. That is true. We do not have enough hands. Yeah. This is my big jar of pom-poms. My granddaughter loves to go through that and figure out which one she needs for her next hat. And more scraps. These are all my cotton scraps. I keep thinking that I'm gonna make dishcloths out of them, and who knows? Maybe it will happen someday. But yeah, my lovely studio, my little hideaway, my paradise and my safe haven. It was really nice to get to share it with you guys because I know you understand. So let me see if I can take us over here. Sit down without bumping everything around too much. Hope no one got seasick from that. Okay. I actually also thought that we could talk a little bit about knitting needles, because maybe you saw when I showed you my desk, I have quite the collection and I have my favorites. But there are many favorites, and they are favorites for very different reasons. So, well, it was my pleasure to share this space with you. Yes, it does look very nice right now. Let's check in next week. Usually I keep everything. I'm like very particular with all my stuff, but up here it's like creativity just takes over and everything explodes around me. I'm just going to leave you for 1 second to bring my knitting needles over here and we can chat about which ones are my favorites and why. So, this is what I got. And I do know that I sometimes have a lot of projects on my needle, but still. But there's a reason for everything that I have. For the longest time, my favorite needles were these metal needles. I really loved the Gjorts that are down here because the cords, the beautiful red lace cords that are in here. The best cords in the world. So I was collecting the Gjorts for that very reason. And you can see I am using them. These are the sizes that I use the most, probably from 3.25 and up until 4 millimeters are the ones that I use the most. But I also collected some higher sharps because they are sharp. Like if you compare the higher sharps to the, you can't tell on camera. You can tell when you're knitting with them. The higher sharps are very, very pointy. And because I am a, oh, what do you do about moth? I should take that out. I found in Italy some organic moth repellent that seems, knock on wood, to be working. Ah, okay. She thought someone was coming. Yay. That was so clever. You're okay. Misa, come. Yeah, come to here. So, higher sharps and Xiaogu metal needles, which were for the longest time my favorite knitting needles. I also have the Xiaogu mini set, the very thin ones that I do use for sock knitting. And I have the shorties, the small set and the large set. And then I have all these flyers and Crazy Trio also for socks. So for, yeah, it's always fun with these puppies, isn't it? I think she's convinced now that we're safe. She doesn't need to protect us. For the longest time, these were the needles that I would use for basically anything. And these are still the needles that I use if I knit in a rustic yarn, like some of the Highland wool or the Lat wool, some of the Tinde, all the non-superwash rustic wools. I would definitely pick a metal needle, depending on what I was knitting. If I was knitting color work or lace, I would probably go for the higher sharps. Anything else, I would go for the Xiaogu. I wish that higher sharp had better cables, because the cables on the Xiaogu. Okay, maybe we should have like a doggy episode where all the dogs could chat. That would be so much fun, but also kind of noisy. But then again, we could turn down the volume, right? Recently, I have gotten a new favorite, and that is these. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice with a doggy episode? My dog doesn't knit, but you know what? This one, this is from, I always forget, it is from Magpie Fibers. Magpie Fibers has these in a lot of different colors on their website. I don't know if they're available in Denmark, to be honest. I got mine as a souvenir. I get a lot of souvenirs, don't I? I think I keep saying that every time I bought something. That's a souvenir. But yeah, Magpie Fibers. You could try to ask Google if they're available in Denmark. It's a lovely case, and it holds a lot of needles. I do keep my Xiaogu bamboo in a separate case, just because there's no more space in the other one. I wish there was, because it's these will work with the same quartz as the regular Xiaogus, the red lace quartz. And I am so happy that they fit the red lace quartz, because the quartz that they come with are Not my favorite. Not my favorite. Then I didn't say too much. See, I was expecting Xiaogu quartz, red lace quartz, no memory. And I got this. And I was so disappointed. Oh, you like the Xiaogu bamboo tips as well? And you like my sheep? I like my sheep. He is just so cozy. I would only use these if I was running out of quartz. I bought a couple of extra red lace quartz to keep with this new needle set because I want the good quartz. But yeah, I just bought the small set because I very rarely use the thicker needles, and if I do, I'm fine using a metal needle. It's not that I don't like metal needles, but when I am working with these very, very oh, well, Linda, you should come over here and like be here and we could have tea. That would be nice. The bamboo tips are just perfect for the more slippery yarns. Like if you're working in a silk blend or a superwash merino, it is going to get you just a little more grip on your yarns. And also because I am a super loose knitter, these will actually I actually feel the same. It's like you're here and we're just sitting here going through my needles. Your dog ate your needles? I hope it's a really cute dog. You can never do that. I'll give you anything, but you can never take my needles. These are perfect for all the slippery yarns. They are perfect for a very loose knitter who likes to get their gauge just tightened up a little bit. So I really recommend these if you like to work with the very soft and somewhat slippery yarns. Don't eat them. I hope she didn't get any good ideas. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. The final case here with knitting needles. This one holds the very first interchangeable set that I ever got. This is from Drops. I bought this set. That's more than 30 years ago because I owned these needle tips when my boys were born and they're in their 30s now. So I will say this has been worth every dime that I paid for it. I have had this set again for more than 30 years. It's still functioning. It's a bamboo needle in a very small size can break, especially if you're a tight knitter. It never happened to me because I'm so not a tight knitter, but I have heard about people that it happened for. Yeah, this holder is nice too. This is from Mood Living, so this is their lovely leathery one. But yeah, my old Drops needle, very, very, very old. And then my Lüge needles, because they use the same cords. And that also goes for the carbons and these, is it Knitter's Pride that also uses the same cords. So everything that will use a cord like this one goes into this needle case. That's the logic behind this. So everything that will attach to a cord like this goes into this case, and everything that uses a Xiaogu or a higher cord goes into the big magpie case. Here I also have my small circulars. I'm not loving them, but I'm also not hating them. And sometimes when I am knitting small circumferences, I actually prefer these to magic loop. I don't know, magic looping just seems like a bother. Yeah, you broke 2.75 bamboo, yeah. I have heard that, that the thinner needles, they do have a tendency to break. And you could say, of course they do, because there can be a lot of pressure on them. So, yeah. One thing that I have gotten to know about myself is that I prefer knitting needles that are 4 inches in length. So 10 centimeters. A lot of my metal needles are 5 inches. I think they're too long. And the Lücke, I think they're only 3 inches, 7.5 centimeter. They're okay. They're definitely okay, but the nicest length for my hands is definitely 4 inches. So that is something that I keep in mind as I purchase needles to fill out any gaps. Not that I can see any gaps right now, but yeah, that is something that I have come to learn about myself, that is my preferred length of knitting needles. So the last thing that's in here is my lantern moon, my Tunisian crochet set that I have showed you recently. I bought this last time I was in the US. I also have a jar full of crochet hooks, all kinds of different crochet hooks, ergonomically correct hooks with thick and heavy handles, and the old ones that are like basically like these, just a plain handle. All different sizes. I even have some that has a little light going on out here, which is super nice for late night crochet or crocheting in the car, on the plane. But my elbow won't allow me to crochet, but my elbow does allow me to do Tunisian crochet. It's a completely different movement. Plus, I also think it's easier for me to be mindful of learning a technique that doesn't hurt my elbow as much. So, my new favorite craft. But yeah, these are my knitting needles. I do have a lot, but they have been collected over more than 30 years. You just broke a 3.5. Wow. That's amazing. Are you a tight knitter? 3.5, that's a lot of needle to break. I'm sorry. I really hope you find one. You need to find a replacement needle. On this one, I think I showed you, I am also using the Xiaogu bamboo needles. Perfect for this yarn, because this is, as I told you, superwash merino, yak, and silk. So it is a soft and smooth yarn. It still does have some, just a little bit of tooth to it. Not like scratchy or rustic or anything, but just, it's like there's a little bit of spring, a little bit of sponginess to it, which I really appreciate, because it also helps the knitting to look nicer even before blocking, and I do appreciate that. I do know that when working in these soft and smooth yarns, it's not gonna look as nice as if you are working in a rustic yarn. You just get so much help from the yarn when you're using a rustic yarn. But yeah, I think this one does pretty good. I think it looks fairly okay. Again, not blocked. So yeah. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this knitathon as much as I am. I find myself smiling all of the time. My husband actually noticed when he stopped by earlier in the day. He was like, "You're just sitting there with a smile. You look like a cat who just found a bowl of cream." I am very happy. I am knitting comfortably, and I am so enjoying knitting together with all of you guys. It really feels like we are knitting together. Just imagine if we could one day all meet up from all over the world and just knit together, and we would all feel like we knew each other. That's how I feel for sure when I meet people who have commented on the podcast, or people who have tested for me, people that I have had some kind of interaction with. It really feels like I know them. Yeah, you also like them? They are absolutely wonderful. Knitting community is the best. Oh, thank you, Jessica. Well, thanks for joining me. It wouldn't really be the same if it was just me doing this alone. I did try that once. The video that I made is on my channel. I did set myself the goal of knitting for 24 hours, and that was a joyful 24 hours, but doing it together, this is just so special. It feels like a festival of knitting. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you doing this together. I am just gonna mention the next people to either do a live stream or release an episode, because there are some of these next time slots that will be filled by people uploading a special episode that they have made for this knitathon, but not going live. But first, at 11 p.m. in 20 minutes, we are gonna go to Italy, to my almost neighbor, Martina, from the podcast We Grow Wild. I think Martina and I are only a couple of hundred kilometers from each other, but we're both in Italy, which makes us almost neighbors. She is, she's on at 11 o'clock. At midnight, we have lovely Carson from CarsleeHandmade. She is adorable. I do know that she has a pre-recorded episode because she has a teeny tiny baby. And with these small humans in our lives, I remember I wouldn't be able to commit to going live at a certain time. But yeah, Carson is lovely. Carson is from Texas. So there. At 1 a.m. we're going to go to Australia to meet up with Jane from Mindful Making. Yay! At 2 o'clock we have Wool and Wine, the 3 lovely ladies, and I know that they actually plan on doing a giveaway in their episode. So there's not going to be 16 winners as I announced in the introduction. There's going to be 17. I am so happy to hear that, Vanessa. That is lovely. And that's actually one of the ideas behind this Knitathon, is to introduce people to new podcasters that they probably wouldn't have found otherwise. If you don't know Purled in Texas, again, 3 wonderful ladies. You should definitely look at 3 o'clock because they're a lot of fun for sure. And then at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be back, and that's going to be like a regular podcast episode kind of thing, showing my works in progress and showing you what I finished since I last did a podcast, and also talking a little bit about some of my dream knits. So there is lots of entertainment to be had. I know that here in Europe it's beginning to get late, but you know what? Have some extra chocolate, maybe an extra cup of coffee. Pepsi Max also has lots of caffeine in it. We did talk a lot about Pepsi Max on my Danish episode. So make sure that you're caffeinated, that your sugar levels are up, and I really hope that you will be enjoying the next hours of the Knitathon. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here in my studio. That was really nice to show you this space and invite you in. Please have a seat and we will catch up later. Bye for now.